Mayo were very impressive with their 116 to 13 point win over Roscommon. And maybe it was something to do with the intensity of knowing in your performance and knowing that we're out of the championship if we lose this game. And last year, obviously, Roscommon beat Mayo and got those early goals, and there was no sign of that here. And maybe going against the wind in the first half was a poor idea from Roscommon. And if they had it back again, they might have gone the other way because you needed to get a foothold here. But was the fact that Mayo performed with that bit more intensity and put that bit more pressure on Roscommon due to the fact that they know there's no backdoor this time, since they won their 5 in a row in the Connacht Championship 5 years ago. They haven't been back to a final since. Galway and Mayo or Roscommon have shared the title since, and obviously Roscommon were looking to get back on top here. But they probably the reason they didn't is because they lost all the key battles. Like Durkan, he definitely won the battle with Enda Smith, who never truly got into the game. You'd have to say that Cathal Craig decisively lost the battle with Lee Keegan. And Donny Smith, yeah, he got a couple of scores, but probably not enough really against Oisín Mullen. And he did disturb him once or twice, much in the same way that there were signs that Conor Cox could have gotten on top of Chris Barrett. And I think Barrett at full back against a top team that's going to put in more ball into a serious player. It's going to be, there was little telltale signs that maybe he'll have it tough there, but it'll be interesting to see if James Horan will rezone someone else back there depending on who the matchup is. Like, for example, last season we saw Lee Keegan go back against Colin Callahan for Dublin. Obviously that didn't work out too well for Mayo, but you get the point anyway. They might rejig as they see fit. But they're definitely decisively moving on from some of the players that had several goals at winning an All-Ireland title and it didn't quite happen for them. And you'd have to be impressed with young players like Ryan Odonoghue. Even just his athleticism and his directness. He's an underage soccer player with Ireland. He looks in great shape, much like Owen McLaughlin, who was an underage cyclist for Ireland. And the way he was bombing forward from wing back, it's just like Mayo keep producing these half-backs who are able to do this, whether it's Paddy Durkan, Lee Keegan or this Owen McLaughlin player as well. He looks very, very good. Anthony Cunningham obviously wasn't impressed by some of his key men, like taking off Cathal Craig after 42 minutes, taking off Conor Cox after 58. I mean, Cox had scored, I think, a mark and maybe a couple of frees, but other than that, he wasn't really a factor in the game. But then again, none of their forwards overly were. I mean, Keane McKeown did pretty well. Diarmuid Murtagh came on and scored 2 points pretty quickly in the 67th and maybe 68th or 9th minute as well. One of them was an absolute beauty off his left, and maybe he could have come in sooner. Maybe he could have even started. I think from the first water break until half time, Mayo be a little bit alarmed at how things dropped off a bit. I mean, they created chances but scored just 2 of 9, where Roscommon, who'd been very much on the back foot early on in that game and created, next to nothing, they actually outscored them 3 points to 2 during that time. The goal just before that first water break from Diarmuid O'Connor, that was a brilliant finish from him, and he was fed nicely by Owen McLaughlin, who we mentioned earlier. So that was a lovely little finish, kept it low, sort of lovely little finish. But you would have to say Colm Lavin made himself a small bit small for that. I kind of felt he did. Normally, you think the idea of a goalkeeper coming out one-on-one sort of narrowish angle, not too many things that Diarmuid O'Connor could do that he'd come out, Peter Schmeichel style, the starfish type thing. Maybe could have done better. Like in other respects, he didn't do so bad. Like some of his kickouts found his big men. So, there's kind of give and take with that sort of thing. Like Roscommon had gotten 3 points in a row before the water break in the second half, and they brought it back to just 6 points. And Paddy Durkan, who had scored a brilliant point in the first half after 8 minutes, after I think 6 minutes, bursting up through the centre and putting Roscommon very much on the back foot. He scored one in 53 minutes, kind of steadied the ship. Not that necessarily Mayo were reeling or anything like that, but it was just important to get a point there to just break that momentum that Roscommon had. Cillian O'Connor obviously filled his boots in terms of like handy frees and even scores in front of the posts, and Mayo were able to run up the centre far too often. Even James Carr had a handy chance that he missed towards the end. Matty Ruan, right before he was taken off, he had a shot from more or less the 21 and knocked it wide. Cillian O'Connor had a point from the 21 at one stage. So it was at times a little bit too easy for to get in through. And, very much easy stuff for Mayo for a finish. I think Roscommon are always at arm's length. And there's certainly an advantage for Mayo coming into this kind of final next week against Galway, because they played 2 games in the last week. No real suggestion that they're going to be carrying any injuries into the final now. Didn't look like anyone went down in this game. But that's a significant advantage against a Galway team that haven't played at all. And after they'd had such a poor performance against Mayo just a couple of weeks ago, they went and lost to Dublin. Like, it wasn't a particularly bad performance against Dublin. I mean, Dublin are the top team in the country, but they lost, and you'd think that they'd want to get a few more games into them, or even one game into them, just to blow out the dirty petrol, get a bit of a good vibe going before the final next week. But it is looking pretty good for Mayo. Whether they have the quality up front, the absolute, dynamic forward who's going to turn and score a goal out of nothing, is debatable. Aidan O'Shea was good at times, quiet at other times. Tommy Conroy scored a couple of nice points. Looks dangerous at times, but was out of the game for long spells as well. So I'd be interested to get your thoughts. Can Mayo kick on from here? But certainly a comprehensive enough win over Roscommon, who we won't be seeing again until next year.